Well, welcome. I hope you're having a fantastic day. And as always, want to thank you for choosing to spend your valuable time with us here today. And hold on to your boots because today should be a really interesting episode. We're going to be talking with Nichole Daher about negotiating purpose and profit from an autism mom to a franchise founder and talking a bit about building a mission-driven business. So welcome, Nichole. I'm really excited about the conversation today.
Thank you so much. I'm excited too. I love your podcast. Listen to it all the time. And guys, if you're listening, please leave Cindy 5 stars right now on whatever platform you're listening to because she absolutely deserves it.
Oh, thanks, Nichole. I love that. And for those of you who may not know her, Nichole is the founder of Success on the Spectrum. It's the first ever ABA therapy franchise in the United States. And what began as just one clinic to help her own stepdaughter has now grown to 66 and growing locations with over, I think, another 100 territories that have been awarded. And it's really transforming autism care across the country. And goodness knows we have needed that. Hopefully, it'll expand beyond the US because this is a growing problem that is not getting the attention it deserves. And Nichole was honored with the 2024 Houston Humanitarian Award, recognized as a top franchise to buy by CIO Media. And she's redefining what it means to build a mission driven, recession resistant business. So if that has caught your attention, go grab some kind of writing utensil, whatever your pleasure is. And I think her journey really is a testament to turning personal struggle into scalable impact and helping purpose-driven professionals escape the kind of burnout that is on the rise today and be able to find meaning in their work. And again, we can all use that, and we are so pushed in our lives to do what's expected rather than to do what is purposeful for us. So why don't we jump in, Nichole, and start? I think you turned, what could have been or probably was a heartbreaking personal struggle into America's first autism therapy franchise. So I was curious, did you realize at the time that you were changing an entire industry, or did it start just as one, desperate mom solution, if you will?
It was definitely not on purpose. And I had no intent in ever starting a national franchise and running this empire. I say it all happened by accident, is what I say. But you don't realize how many autistic kids there are
Yeah.
until you really start thinking about the figures. The CDC just released new numbers. 1 in 31 kids is
Wow.
diagnosed with autism. And if you think about the number of kids that are in a typical school classroom, about 30. So
Yeah.
statistically, one kid in every classroom has got a touch of the tism. That's what I like to call it.
I
And
love
so
that.
it's incredible. There's so many kids. There's so many kids that need help. And every year or a year or two, it seems like the CDC is releasing new numbers that number goes up and up and up. So the number of kids being diagnosed is increasing, and the number of clinics that offer treatment for these kids or specialized teaching for these kids
Yeah.
is not keeping up.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to, right?
Yeah.
So when my daughter needed ABA therapy, we were lucky. We found it. We found a great place, and it rocked our world. She learned how to talk. She made eye contact. She made her first friend. A mama could cry. She potty
Aw.
trained. All the things, right? Like it gave my daughter her life back. Whatever the diagnosis I was afraid would take away from her, ABA therapy gave her the skills that she needed to overcome that.
Yeah.
And you're not, as a parent, you don't know how to teach all these things. So ABA is just a method of teaching in a nonverbal way that gets a child to understand new information.
Yeah.
But what I found was incredible that even though we got into this ABA therapy clinic, they age kids out when they turn 7. They're
Yeah.
like, hey,
Which
you're
is
the
crazy.
school's problem now. Crazy. You don't age out of autism. Why would you age out
Absolutely.
of treatment? Oh God, it broke my heart. So the company started. My intention was to open one clinic just for her
Yeah.
so that she could continue the therapy and not, continue to be supported, not be left hanging. And then my clinic, my little itty bitty side job, quote unquote, became really big. And more mamas just like me were just calling and calling and calling. And suddenly I was the person on the other end of the phone saying, no, I can't take your kid. We're
Yeah.
full.
Yeah.
And it crushed me.
Uh-huh.
And so I can't treat all these kids myself. I can't do this alone. This is not something one person can do. It's not one something one person should do.
Yeah.
And franchising seemed like the answer. It seemed like the solution.
Well, and it's amazing to me when you talk about the increase in the numbers. I mean, that's the number of children who are being diagnosed, and there's so many who are not even getting diagnosed yet because the wait list to get the kind of testing you need. So I suspect the numbers are even much higher than we realize. And oh, that aging out is a pet peeve of mine. We didn't deal with autism, but 2 out of 3 of my kids had learning differences. And again, it took forever to get the diagnoses. It took forever to get them on the wait list into treatment. And one of them, by the time, the first one, because we didn't know better, by the time they made it on the wait list, they were aging out and we said, sorry, we can't. So we were better prepared for the next one. Now, was there a specific turning point that made you say, hey, if I can't find the care, I'll build it myself? Or was it just that the numbers at your clinic were clearly that there was more needed?
The numbers were just so high, and I was crushed to be turning people away. I actually opened a second clinic, and when that one got full, that's when I decided to franchise because I was like, I can't run a third, then I can't be a mom. I'm
Yeah.
working too hard.
Yeah.
So 25% of our current franchisees are autism parents.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
they found us because they were looking for solutions just like me. If I can't find an ABA therapy place in my town,
Yeah.
or if all the ones that exist are full, I'll make my own. But because this service is in such high demand and because it is deemed medically
Yeah.
necessary, health insurance pays 100% for it.
Yeah.
And because the demand is so high, the reimbursement rate is really, really good.
No, that's
Um,
shocking.
so yeah, it's the one sector of the medical field where you actually get paid well for doing something because
Yeah.
everything seems to be going down and we are going up.
Well, and
So
kudos to the
everything,
parents, because I do think a lot of that is that lobby voice. I mean, most,
yeah,
parents of children with autism they're very vocal and learning that they need to be. Now, and when you talk about the franchise, one of the things like you're sort of famously known for saying just own the clinic and hire the doctor, which I think is probably not a concept that most people would come to. And I think it's such a bold shift in thinking. So can you unpack a bit about what that mindset represents, especially for people out there and women in particular who may not feel qualified enough?
absolutely. One of the funny TikTok commercials that I made recently was, is your mother disappointed that you're not a doctor? Well, just own a medical practice, but don't go to medical school, right? And that's exactly what it is. So the CEOs within our company are not medical practitioners. We do the payroll, the hiring, the firing, the paperwork, all the administrative stuff. You're essentially HR for your own
Yeah,
little business, and you just hire the medical professional. And in this industry, they're called behavior analysts,
yeah,
and they get about $80 to $100,000 a year salary. And you just need one of them to start,
yeah,
and then you hire a bunch of entry level people to work as technicians one on one with the kid, and the analyst teaches them what to do.
yeah,
And so, as an owner, you don't have to have experience, you don't have to have a degree, you don't have to have a license, nothing like that. We just hire the people who do the clinical work, and you take care of the administrative work. And we teach you how to do all of that stuff.
yeah. It's a brilliant model. And we're just starting to see a little bit of it now with dentistry, where people who are not dentists are buying the businesses and hiring the dentists, right? Especially ones who are wanting to sort of phase out and not work as hard. And the other beauty about it is it seems to me like you've built a recession-proof kind of business in one of the toughest markets, healthcare. So what do you know about maybe building resilience that most entrepreneurs miss, would you say?
I really formed the franchise in 2018. We sold a few. And when COVID hit, that's when I was like, oh no, what's going to happen? I just got all these people to sign on and they put their life savings into this. Did I just
Oh,
bring them to their ruin? And it scared me.
yeah.
But this business surprised, I didn't do this on purpose, Cindy. It surprised me so much how well it did during COVID. All the schools were closed, parents were losing their jobs, they couldn't afford to keep their kids in daycare,
Yeah.
but they could keep them in ABA. It was medically necessary. We didn't have to close. Insurance paid for it, so parents didn't owe a thing.
Yeah.
And parents of our existing clients who had other neurotypical children or quote unquote normal children, they said they don't have these kids don't have anywhere to go. The schools are closed. Could you take them too? So we temporarily made virtual assistant classrooms is what we did for neurotypical kids who were displaced, siblings of our clients. We separated them and had a bunch of people cleaning, and we all wore masks and the whole thing. But if we could survive COVID with
Yes.
the lockdowns, the shutdowns, the economic recession, like all of that, so unexpected, and it'll happen again. A
Yeah.
pandemic will happen again. It's just a matter of when. And I was just so surprised and happy that the business thrived
Yeah.
under these conditions when so many others shut down.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet. And I mean, franchising isn't usually the first model that people would think of when they hear about autism therapy. So, how did you see it as the right structure? Was it just you? I know you were saying earlier about the growth. Hey, once we got to two, and I knew, was it that? Because that's a big leap, right? So,
It's a huge leap. And I think it was a little bit of just jump without looking, close your eyes and leave type of thing. But it made sense. When I opened the very first clinic, I called around and begged people to teach me how to do things because
yeah,
I didn't have any experience
yeah.
in this field at all. And no one would help me.
Uh,
And I looked for a franchise and none existed. And
yeah.
you thought to yourself, surely someone else has thought of this. Like, surely I'm not the first one who's had
Yeah.
this thought. This is crazy, right? And then you start thinking, does everybody else know something that I don't know? I'm either a genius or I'm stupid, and I'm not sure which. But turns out it's a great model. We have people from all walks of life, people leaving corporate America to quit making their bosses rich and get some money for themselves, people who've worked. I have one guy who worked for an insurance company, like a car insurance company. And he's like, I feel like I've sold my soul to the devil and I need to put good back into the world. He's literally just doing it to be philanthropic.
Aw,
So all walks of life come together for this because you have both essential items. You have the business that gets you the financial stability that you deserve. We work bankers' hours so you can still be a mama, you can still
yeah.
do all the things, but also you're helping kids and you wake up excited and you feel so good
Yeah.
about the work that you're doing. And it's impressive when you go to a party. You don't just own a pizza place and you're introducing yourself to a bunch of people. Yeah, I own a pizza place. It's really impressive when you say, I own a medical practice helping autistic children. It's,
Yeah.
you're proud of it.
And it's so needed. I mean, it's so, as you say, those numbers are climbing and we're, starting to understand it better and people realize, just how much they have to offer, right? So now what advice do you have for how to succeed in franchising without I'm sure a lot of people are worried about the burnout without that sort of corporate burnout.
Yeah, the great thing about a franchise is that someone's already tested it, someone's already tried it, and whatever method they came up with already works.
Yeah.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And there are so many personalities like me that don't like following the rules and they want to invent their own thing and come up with new ideas, and that's great, but franchising is probably not for you.
Yeah.
If you're that type A go getter, I'm going to do it my way. Just start your own thing. I did it. You can do it. You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I made a lot of expensive mistakes along the way, but I lived, right? But franchising is great for someone who doesn't want to go through the time to write a
Yeah.
400-page operation manual, someone who doesn't want to get sued 3 times before they figure out what kind of forms and templates people need to sign before they walk in the door. All of these things are just handed to you in a nice little neat box.
Yeah.
So trust the process, follow the process. Some people look at it like a franchise is oppressive, that someone's putting rules on you and trying to tell you what to do. But really, it's just guidelines to protect you from yourself
Yes.
in a way that works for both the customers and for you. And I think it's beautiful.
Yeah. No, I mean, yours was obviously came from a personal need, but you really succeeded in niching down. And again, I suspect you did it because this is what we need, right? This piece of it. But is that something you recommend? Like, I guess, how can others, maybe our listeners, incorporate this idea to enhance their success, whether in this or something else?
I mean, you have to measure your success in different ways because coming up with a new idea is always difficult. Starting your own business is always emotionally stressful. My advice is to have support behind you, to surround yourself with the right people, hiring a good team, and trusting that hiring people that know different things than you and trusting that the information they give you is in both of your best interests. That is a powerful concoction to bake success,
Yeah.
so to speak, because you can't really do it alone.
Yeah.
And you want to learn from others' mistakes if you can, but if you're doing something completely new, like I did, you just have to trust other people's knowledge. Two heads are better than one.
Yeah. Yeah. And how does, I mean, teaching is a big part of it. So how does mentorship factor into your mission? And what advice do you have for people out there at the crossroads between sort of security and significance, for want of a better term?
It's so hard because most businesses that are very philanthropic in nature are not very profitable. And so it's very hard to find that balance that has it both, like you said. But it has to have meaning for you. It doesn't have to be helping the starving babies of the world.
Yeah.
It could just be something that's meaningful for you, that is something you can be proud of in yourself. So if you find that and you find a way to market it in a way that would make you profitable, go for it. Because really, to be happy, if happiness is your success, you got to have a little bit of money and you got to have a little bit of pride.
Yeah.
You got to love what you do.
Yeah. And I mean, you're sort of speaking to that now. So, as the founder of Women on Purpose, I'm a big believer in the power of purpose. And why do you believe, or do you believe, that purpose-driven businesses are going to outlast the sort of the market considerations?
Purpose driven businesses are usually not trendy, so they don't fade in and out with the fads. The more into the future we go, the more that AI is going to replace our general workforce.
Yeah.
And so taking that personal factor, that customer service out, having something that helps others and becomes a face to face personal experience is going to outlast the robots.
Yeah.
And so it's important to find a people forward business that will survive this incoming
Yes.
surge of computer run
Yeah.
job descriptions.
Yeah.
So I think you can't replace the people, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And I think that when we bring that kind of passion and purpose to it, it sets us apart, right? And people are crave as we get more as you robotic and I think I have got to believe that people are craving connection. And I think people who come from a purpose-driven place offer that connection in a way that other businesses just don't. Would you agree with that? Or
I would completely agree, especially when your customer is a person seeking help. You know, for me, it's a parent that just got a diagnosis for their kid and they're afraid. They're
yes,
not just looking to check a box. They need that comfort. They need that assurance. They need
yes.
someone who's going to make them feel like they have answers. And that's not something that you can plug into a computer and spit out a code. So
Wow.
that I think that's very true.
Wow, that resonated because our firstborn, our daughter, got diagnosed with 2 months with that she was in heart failure and had very serious heart defect, and the diagnosis kept getting going from bad to worse as more and more complications piled on.
Oh,
And my gosh, we were desperate for
yeah.
answers, right? And from people who cared, right? People who gave a shit. It made such a difference. So
And
yeah.
that robot won't do that for you.
No, no, no. Although they're trying, which is terrifying. I know on
Well,
ChatGPT lately they're saying, "Oh, I heard your hip. I'm sure you'll handle it with the same." I'm like, "Oh my God, they're trying to teach them empathy. This is terrifying."
it is. It
Yeah.
really is.
Yes. Now, you had quite success in other entrepreneurial experiences in your past. How did they prepare you for the leap into the healthcare franchising?
My parents were both business owners. And I think growing up in that environment, I think, well, I'll start from the beginning. I guess the reason why most people don't start their own businesses is because they're afraid of the unknown. And
Yes.
I think that that's a big factor for a lot of people. But because I grew up watching my parents handle situations that nobody taught them how to handle, or I think the fear was gone. I'm like, well, if they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is not magic. We can. So I think being around that really prepared me. As all children that grow up in a household with parents that own businesses, you become a very, child slave labor for
Yeah.
them. So I worked for my mom,
Yeah.
from the time that I got old enough to answer a phone, I was working that desk, and that gave me experience. I love my mother, but she's not a very good manager.
Okay.
And she was not always available for her employees,
Yeah.
and when things would go wrong, her much older managers that she hired to run the place would look to me for answers,
It's hilarious.
because if they chose the wrong thing, they might get in trouble, but I'm the daughter of the boss, so you pick what we do.
Yeah.
So I was making big crisis handling decisions and management decisions when I was 16, 17 years old. And sometimes it was the wrong thing, sometimes the right thing, but I learned a lot from it.
Yeah.
And that really built that leadership character that I think
Yeah.
that I have, and that I can always be better, believe me. But it really helped in that I wasn't scared to do it
Yeah.
on my own.
Well, and two things I want to unpack there because I think they're so important. And one is you said, hey, I made mistakes, and you alluded to that earlier. I made some really costly mistakes. I think we're so afraid of failure that we end up not trying and don't recognize that failures, as corny as it sounds, failure is a path to success, right? I mean, I wish we had celebrations so that we started teaching our kids from a young age to celebrate the failures, and in particular, what did I learn from it? So I'd like you to speak to that first, if you can, because you've been pretty vulnerable about the fact, hey, of course there were failures here. What's your view on failing, and what advice would you have for our listeners?
If you never fail, you're not taking enough risk.
Yeah.
So I'm also, as a hobby, a high performance driver, and I do high performance driving academies, and I always have a racing instructor in the car with me. And I'm a very, I'm a woman and I fear death. So I try and, I don't want to wreck my car and then like have to pay to fix it. And when you're racing, you want to go as fast as you can, but if you go too fast and you go around a corner, your car slides out. You want to drive right on the edge
Yeah.
of the most that you can do without failure. And if you've never failed, you've never gotten up to the edge.
Yes.
And it's the same with business. You can push harder and you can make more profit and you can try new things to bring your business to different levels. But if you never fail, that means you're not leaving the safe zone.
Yeah.
You're going slower than you could be. Push a little harder and see at what point do I lose grip on this road.
Yes, I love that. And for our listeners, I'd really invite you, challenge you to apply that in your professional life and also in your personal life. Because as you're saying that, Nichole, I was thinking about a period. I'm sure everybody thought I was going through an early midlife crisis back in the day when, I was scuba diving with sharks and skydiving and bungee jumping and caving and abseiling. And I mean, it, but again, it was I wasn't reckless, but I was pushing always to that edge, just outside my comfort zone, just outside my comfort zone every time. And you live a bigger life when you're willing to live on that edge. So I think that's beautiful advice. And you started that conversation by talking about that fear of the unknown. And that was the other piece of it that I wanted to unpack because my gosh, we get so held back by our fears. And I think women in particular, I think it certainly crosses gender lines, but I think women are so conditioned to play small that we do have that bigger fear. So, what advice would you have for our listeners out there who have not been taking chances in business, professionally and personally because of that fear of the unknown? What are your thoughts on that?
Chances are not for everyone. It really depends on what walk of life that you're in. It really helps if you start a business before you have kids. It really helps to start businesses when you have a husband that can financially support your household if you fail. And I think being in that position is very powerful, where you do have the support that someone can help you back up when you fail. Women worry about this stuff a lot. We're all mamas, we all want to put our kids first. And it's really scary when you're risking everything to start a business to help even other kids.
Yeah.
It's got to be calculated and you've got to be smart about it. You can't be reckless. Risk and recklessness can be totally different. And so using the knowledge of other people to guide you, learning from other people's mistakes first, doing your research, not reinventing the wheel completely, but taking what you've learned from them and asking other people's perspective is really going to guide you and make your liability a little bit lower, I suppose. And you said something earlier that really struck a chord with me. So if you don't mind me deviating,
Yeah, absolutely.
you said that some women tend to be small,
Yeah.
and society likes a demure, meek,
Mhm.
subservient woman that is small that lets the men be in all the business. The bigger and more successful my business became, the more my marriage suffered
Yeah.
because I was married to an Arab doctor who was very proud.
Yeah.
And when I started making more money than him, it
Yeah.
became a competition.
Yeah.
And I actually just wrote a book about the cost of building an empire. It's on Amazon Prime now if you'd like to look it up. It's called Charting New Waters. But part of that risk is going to be when you serve others, the family is the one that suffers the most. So if they don't have your back 100%, you can't do it by yourself.
Yeah. Well, and thank you for speaking out. And I didn't know about that book, and I'll definitely make a point of putting that in the show notes as well for our listeners there, because I think it's an important subject and we don't talk about it enough. That, yes, we're in transitioning and the rules are changing, but with those pushes, we're seeing a lot of pushback. And it is still very much the case that women who really do step into their power, you got to be prepared that there are costs for that. There are a lot of people out there who are not going to accept it. Not just the men in your life, but other women in your life and other people who have expectations to keep you in a box. So I love that you're speaking out about that and being open and vulnerable about it, because I think it's a subject we all need to speak about a little bit more. Now, back to the medical business piece. What misconceptions do people have about opening a quote unquote a medical business, especially without a medical degree? And how do you help them get past what I assume are fears around that?
Again, I think it's the fear of the unknown, the whole insurance game. I don't know how to submit claims. I don't know how to get insurance to pay. I don't know how to get in network. All of these fear, and trust me, they don't make it easy to figure it
Yeah,
out. I mean, I think they intentionally do things to make it
absolutely.
obscure. But having somebody like a franchisor who can teach you how to do these things, everything is very possible. Again, it's my favorite phrase. It's not magic. It can be done. And I think it's actually easier now than it was 10 years ago when I started this company, when everything was on paper and you'd
Yeah.
have to lick a stamp and mail things. It was horrible. Now everything's electronic and software is plugged into like literally the software makes the claim and shoots it off into
Yeah.
cyberspace and you get a check and direct deposited into your bank account a few
Yeah.
days later. So things have come along so far in just 10 years, 20 years from now, when with the help of AI and technology, and it's going to be even easier and more achievable. So don't let the fear of the unknown be a risk factor in your head.
Yeah.
That's not part of that decision. If you're ready to jump into any kind of business, weigh the pros and cons, but the fear of unknown should never be a con
Yeah.
because you will figure that out.
Well, and it's interesting as you were speaking, it struck me because the answer's sort of in the fear of the unknown. Go learn about it, whether it's through in a franchisee, you've got all the resources there. So that's fabulous. But, and again, for our listeners, in whatever you're looking into, we're not saying just make a reckless jump, as Nichole has said, but if there's the fear of the unknown, go do a bit of research, go talk to other people, go find out what you can. And you don't have to have every possible eventuality figured out. None of us can. None of us know what the future holds. Look at with Nichole starting and then COVID hit. Who could have anticipated that, right? So, absolutely. Now, many of our listeners are, leaders who are navigating personal or professional transitions. What lessons from your own pivot, Nichole, like from autism mom to franchise founder building an empire, what lessons do you have that can maybe inspire them to negotiate change with more courage?
Well, a couple things that I've learned is common sense is not that common.
Yeah.
That if you are doing well in your corporate career and if you are feeling like you are being held by the bounds of someone else micromanaging you, but you think that you can do better on your own, that's usually the first symptom
Yeah.
of a leader. And you are the exact type of person that a business owner should be. And so if you see that in yourself, recognize it. You are not, if you are one with common sense, you are actually exceptional. So don't, believe in yourself. If you have common sense, you are actually above the herd already. You would not imagine how many things I've learned along the way that I'm like, really? Some of my employees will just put metal in the microwave and then act like it's a brand new lesson that they've never heard of. And it drives me nuts. I'm like, really? How do you people live? And you got to teach them that like you're their mama. But
Yeah.
a second lesson I've learned is that you can't make everybody happy.
Yeah.
And I used to take it very personally when I upset a customer, or even worse, when I upset one of my staff members, when they were not when I was upset, when they were upset with me for something. I would get my little feelings hurt and I would say, oh God, I'm a bad boss. What did I do wrong? How can I fix this? And then sometimes things
Yeah.
just can't be fixed.
Yeah.
And so you've got to learn to build a little bit of resilience to the people who are naysayers, and do in your heart what you feel is right.
Yeah.
Don't screw people over, but also don't break yourself trying to bend for them.
That's great advice. And we don't talk about that often enough either when we, especially in all the talk about negotiations, knowing when to walk away, whether in a personal relationship where it's toxic, or even some of our friendships that no longer serve us, family dynamics that have become toxic, and whether customers or staff, and we are seeing so much negativity now. Absolutely. Always show up as the best version of yourself and try and have those, listen with empathy and try to understand, but there are certain people that you're never going to convince, and it's not worth the effort or the aggravation. So that's great advice. And I can't believe how quickly this our time has gone here. I normally like to end by asking, what's one of the greatest mindset shifts that you've ever had in your life? And it doesn't have to be on this topic at all, Nichole. It can be on anything.
I think I've gone through so many phases of my life that mindset just seems to be a revolving door on a hamster wheel at this point. But going from employed to employer is a huge
Hmm.
mind shift, and you start caring about a lot more things that you didn't apply to your previous job. And I think it's beautiful how you change your way of thinking and the way of looking at things, and you become a whole different person. It's kind of like becoming a mom when it was
Yeah.
all about you and you saw your side, and all of a sudden it's all about giving.
Yeah.
It's a total mind shift
Yeah.
and mindset, and that is, you know, I think owning a business is like birthing a baby, and you
Yeah.
have this thing to take care of now, and you're thinking of life in a new way, and it helps you grow as a person,
Yeah.
and you become more mature and more aware, and hopefully your life will be better, but you can affect the lives of others as well.
That's beautiful. And I love that analogy for a whole host of reasons. I mean, if you look at your business as if birthing that baby, you're going to nurture it, right? You're going to pour in love. You're going to be a little more compassionate when things aren't going well, because that's very much like parenting. So I think that's a great analogy. And one of the other things you just said, Nichole, that really struck a chord with me is recognizing that a mindset is something we negotiate every day, and it's a choice. You get to choose how to negotiate your mindset. If you find you're in a negative slump, being one of those naysayers, choose positivity. And I'm not saying it happens with the snap, but as you raise your awareness about choosing every morning, who do you want to be? How do you want to show up in the world? How do you want to see the world? Recognizing you can negotiate your mindset is a beautiful thing. So where can people learn more about you, Nichole? You've got such an interesting background, whether people just want to learn more about what you offer, or if they're interested in franchising, where should we send them?
Of course, if you're interested in opening your own ABA therapy franchise, you can learn so much more on my website, sosfranchising.com. We have tons of videos, we have tons of YouTube channels. There are more podcasts that I've done you can listen to. We have testimonials as well. But I have a very special gift for the listeners today.
Yes.
If you mentioned that you heard about SOS franchising on this podcast, mention that when you talk to the sales team and when you reach out and contact us. We will buy you a free domestic flight to Houston to take a tour of corporate headquarters, to see an autism treatment facility live and in action, to see the sights, smell the smells, and see if it's right for you. Because if you're shopping for a business, it's got to be right for both of us, right? So
Wow.
you got to see it, you got to feel it, you got to feel the vibes and the energy, and see if it aligns with yours. And so we're offering that free plane ticket to anyone who mentions that they heard about us from this podcast.
That is a generous offer. And for our listeners, I often say if somebody is offering you a free resource or take advantage, this is a very generous offer for a very necessary and recession-proof kind of business opportunities. So if this tickles your interest at all, I really recommend you follow up. And also, if you're looking, if you need some of the services, I think it's successonthespectrum.com, Nichole, is that?
That's correct. That's our consumer site, Success on the Spectrum, and you can learn about autism and more about the treatments that we offer for those symptoms.
That's awesome. And what's the name of your book again that you've just put out?
Charting New Waters, the story behind success on the spectrum.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much, Nichole. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and huge congrats on your success for yourself personally, but for all of the customers and for changing an industry that needs it so much. What a great inspiration. So thank you.
Girl power.
Yes. And for our listeners, just so much value here. I hope you were paying attention to be able to take it in. And if not, and you're distracted, go back and re-listen to it and make sure to share. I mean, there's not only is there a lot of inspirational nuggets here, but also a fabulous business opportunity. So do make sure to give the gift of sharing to other people in your life who you think might be interested. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't done that yet. And before we sign off, if this episode maybe lit a bit of a fire in you and you're ready to stop playing small and start negotiating your life bigger, come and check out what we've got to offer here. I've got one-on-one, group, or online programs. I've definitely got you covered. So let's tap into that feminine power of yours and start getting more of what you want and deserve without apology. And if you're in, head to artoffemininenegotiation.com to check it out. Make sure to grab a copy of my book of the same name if you have not done that yet, The Art of Feminine Negotiation, How to Get What You Want from the Boardroom to the Bedroom. And that's a wrap for this episode. So now go renegotiate the life that you thought you had to settle for. And remember that every moment is a negotiation. So choose presence, choose power, and choose purpose. I like to think this isn't just a podcast, but more of a movement. So you could be some part of something bigger as well. And together we can redefine power, one conversation and one negotiation at a time. So join the movement and lead the change. And do it with heart, negotiating like the powerful force of nature that you are, because feminine does not mean weak, it means unstoppable. Until next time, take care.